नमस्कार। श्री Ramakrishna Kathamrita. तव कथामृतं तप्त जीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमंगलं श्रीमदादतं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः। श्री रामकृष्ण कथामृतो प्रथम भाग प्रथम खंडो तृतीयो षष्ठ परिच्छेद. And in this षष्ठ परिच्छेद it is Tritiyo Darshan, the sixth chapter. It is about the third visit, Tritiyo Darshan of Sri M. of Sri Ramakrishna, third visit of Sri M to Sri Ramakrishna. And like all other chapters, Sri M starts this chapter also with one shloka. This time, this verse, this shloka is from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Sarvabhutastamatmanam sarvabhutani cha atmani ikshate yoga yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 29, shlok 29 of 6th Adhyay. Now, let us see the meaning of this. Now, what normally I refer to this Bhagavad Gita, which is by revered Swami Chidbhavanandaji of Ramakrishna Tapovanam. Swami Chidbhavanandaji was a disciple of Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivanandaji, the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna and the second president of our Ramakrishna order, Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission. Now, why I use this particular book for my understanding of Bhagavad Gita is Sri Chidbhavanandaji, not only he has translated Sanskrit to English word by word, but after his own explanation about that verse, he has also included the words of Sri Ramakrishna, the words of our Ma, Sri Sarda Devi, the words of Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda, wherever their teachings are apt, are very much in sync with that verse. So it becomes really easy for those who have read Sri Ramakrishna or Ma or Swamiji to get the import of the meaning of that shlok. And for this shlok also, Swami Chidbhavanandaji has given what Thakur had said in the similar context. May not be the exactly same meaning, but we can very well relate Thakur's saying to the meaning of this verse. Sarvabhutasthitham, Sarvabhutastham Atmanam means the Atman abiding in all beings, and Sarvabhutani cha Atmani, and the Atman abiding in me in all beings. Ikshate yoga yuktatma, one who sees thus, having harmonized in yoga. Sarvatra samadarshanaha, he gets the vision, he gets the understanding of sameness in all beings. This is the meaning, like he sees the same Atman in his within. He sees the same Atman of all other beings in his being, and the same Atman that resides in his being is also the same Atman in all the beings. One who gets harmonized in yoga, he gets this understanding of realizing the sameness in all. Sarvatra samadarshanaha. Now, for this, what sayings of Sri Ramakrishna that he has quoted after his own translation, assuming individuality to oneself is like putting a dam to a portion of the Ganga and claiming that little water in it as one's own. The saying of Sri Ramakrishna. Ganges river, river Ganges, Ma Ganga is flowing for everyone. But there are some mean-minded who will just put a small blockage and say, this is my Ganga. But one who has realized, for him, Ganga is for all. What water is there for me? Same water is there for all to use. And the water which is for others to use, I can also use it. That is Sri Ramakrishna saying on this particular verse. So, having understood the meaning of this verse now, equanimity, the sameness, what is there in me is also in all others. In fact, having read this particular verse, I really, I admire, I wonder the greatness of Sri M in, using these verses so aptly for each chapter. Like we have seen, for the second chapter, the opening verse he started the chapter with, the shlok was Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam. Now he is starting the Kathamritam. He has given the shlok pertaining to Kathamritam. The third chapter was salutations to the Guru. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam. The fourth chapter was also salutation to the Guru of removing the blindness caused by ignorance using that coryllium stick of knowledge. Ajnanatimirandhasya dhyananjana shalakaya. The fifth chapter was addressing Sri Ramakrishna as Guru. From fifth chapter onwards, Sri M has become a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. Samsararnava ghore yaha karanadharasvarupakaha. Namostu Ramakrishnaya tasmai Shri Guruve namaha. O Ramakrishna, as the Guru, salutations to you. Who is carrying us, who is helping us cross over this deep ocean. So that was the fifth shlok. And now for the fifth chapter. And now for the sixth chapter, he uses shlok from Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Bhutastha Atmanam. The one who resides in all also resides in me. Having get mastery in yoga, having get harmonized in all the yogas, he gets this understanding, he gets this realization of sameness of all beings. Now why? You see, in the first few chapters, Sri M had one-to-one interaction with Sri Ramakrishna. No, there were no others. In the second chapter, during his first visit to Sri Ramakrishna, although there were devotees sitting in Sri Ramakrishna in front of him in his room, Sri Ramakrishna sitting on that small cot, talking to them about God and telling them, giving them some advice on when the formal devotional worship stops. Remember those words? That at the first, just at the mention of the Lord, when hairs stand on end, when a person starts shedding tears, know for sure that is the stage when his formal worship stops. Then the Sandhya gets merged in Gayatri, Gayatri gets merged in Om. So that advice was to others, and there Sri M had no interaction with others. He was an outsider till then. He just heard those words, got mesmerized, started wondering. Then, of course, his second visit was one-on-one. There were no others involved in that visit. In the first visit, although there were others, but there was no interaction. Now, having accepted Sri Ramakrishna as the Guru, accepting his discipleship of Sri Ramakrishna, now there is going to be a strong association with other disciples and devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. And this association is going to get transformed into a very strong bond, bonhomie, camaraderie. For that, there should be same understanding of sameness between what is there in him and what is there in others. Once you get that feeling, then automatically the strong bond develops, strong bond generates. And this is what is going to happen now, because now in this visit, Sri M is getting to know Narendra, is getting to know Bhavanath, getting to know slowly all other intimate disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, and these disciples are going to form an intimate brotherhood. Some monastics, some householders, but there is intimate bonding, and for that bonding to happen, one should have same-sightedness. One should have same outlook for me and others. What dwells in others is also in me. What dwells in me is also in others. And then that bonding can happen. Then that love for all generates. Then that equanimity, that takes birth. So that was a pretty long introduction. Let us start reading from the Shashto Porichhed, Tritiyo Darshan. মাস্টার তখন বরাহনগরে ভগিনীর বাড়িতে ছিলেন। ঠাকুর শ্রী রামকৃষ্ণকে দর্শন করা অবধি সর্বক্ষণ তাহারাই চিন্তা। সর্বদাই যেন সেই আনন্দময় মূর্তি দেখিতেছেন ও তাহার সেই অমৃতময়ী কথা শুনিতেছেন। ভাবিতে লাগিলেন, এই দরিদ্র ব্রাহ্মণ কি রূপে এই সব গভীর তত্ত্ব অনুসন্ধান করিলেন ও জানিলেন, আর এত সহজে এই সকল কথা বুঝাইতে তিনি এ পর্যন্ত কাহাকেও কখনো দেখেন নাই। কখন তাহার কাছে যাইবেন ও আবার তাহাকে দর্শন করিবেন, এই কথা রাত্র দিন ভাবিতেছেন। When will I be able to see him again? Now he had got into that stage of desperation of seeing Ramakrishna often and often and often. So Sri M was staying at his sister's house in Baranagar, and since the time having visited Sri Ramakrishna, he was constantly thinking about him only. He had started thinking about nothing but Sri Ramakrishna. All the time, at every moment, he was sort of seeing that divine form, that joyous face of Sri Ramakrishna, Anandamoy Murti, the blissful form of Sri Ramakrishna, and তাহার সেই অমৃতময়ী কথা শুনিতেছেন. All the time he was hearing those nectar-like words of Sri Ramakrishna that he had heard during his first visit and the second visit. Their wonderful dialogue, even how his ego was crushed by Sri Ramakrishna. So he had got into that state of getting yearning for the vision of Sri Ramakrishna, yearning to listen to his words. And he was thinking, bhabite laglen, he was wondering, এই দরিদ্র ব্রাহ্মণ কি রূপে এই সব গভীর তত্ত্ব অনুসন্ধান করিলেন ও জানলেন. This poor Brahmin, how he got to know, how he became acquainted with all these deep spiritual truths, the complex spiritual truth, the intricate spiritual truths. How this poor Brahmin of Dakshineshwar, he not only got to know, but thoroughly understood them. আর এত সহজে সকল কথা বুঝাইতে তিনি এ পর্যন্ত কাহাকেও কখনো দেখো নাই. He had never seen anybody up till now, explaining these intricate truths in such simple language, layman's language. You know, people can give lectures and lectures on these spiritual topics, but explaining them in very simple terms, like the Dvaita getting merged in Advaita in the form of Sandhya getting merged in Gayatri, Gayatri getting merged in Om. So simply, so easily Sri Ramakrishna had put it. And that was a wonder of wonder to Sri Ram. Now, কখন তাহার কাছে যাইবেন ও আবার তাহাকে দর্শন করিবেন, এ কথা রাত্রদিন ভাবিতেছেন. Now there was only one thought in his mind. When will I go to him again? When will I listen to his nectar-like words? That was his constant thinking now. দেখিতে দেখিতে রবিবার 5ই মার্চ আসিয়া পড়িল. বরাহনগরের নেপাল বাবুর সঙ্গে বেলা 3টা-4টার সময়ে তিনি দক্ষিণেশ্বর বাগানে আসিয়া পৌঁছিলেন. দেখিলেন সেই পূর্ব পরিচিত ঘোরের মধ্যে ঠাকুর শ্রী রামকৃষ্ণ ছোট তক্তপোষের উপর বসিয়া আছেন. ঘরে এক ঘোর লোক. রবিবারে অবসর হইয়াছে, তাই ভক্তেরা দর্শন করিতে আসিয়াছেন. এখনো মাস্টারের সঙ্গে কাহারও আলাপ হয় নাই. তিনি শোভামতে এক পার্শ্ব আসন গ্রহণ করিলেন. দেখিলেন ভক্ত সঙ্গে সহাস্যবদনে ঠাকুর কথা কহিতেছেন. Now, with all this yearning, earnestness, when will I see Sri Ramakrishna? When will I meet him? When will I listen to those wonderful, beautiful, inspiring words? An opportunity came. It was a Sunday, 5th of March, 1882, and with Sri Nepal Babu of Barahanagar, around 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, Mr. M landed up at Dakshineshwar, the familiar room of Sri Ramakrishna. Earlier, when he had come for the first visit, he had seen all the devotees sitting in the room. He had stood outside. That time he didn't enter. After listening to those words of Sri Ramakrishna, then he went around to see the temple complex, all the 12 Shiva temples, then Radha Govinda temple, Bhavtarini temple. And then when he had come back to Sri Ramakrishna's room, by that time the devotees had dispersed and he could see Sri Ramakrishna with Sidhu, just two of them. They had a small talk. During the second visit, it was only M and Sri Ramakrishna. Now, the room was filled with devotees. দেখিলেন সেই পূর্ব পরিচিত ঘোরের মধ্যে ঠাকুর শ্রী রামকৃষ্ণ ছোট তক্তপোষের উপর বসিয়া আছেন. Sri Ramakrishna sitting on that small cot in the same familiar room that he had first visited, second time visited. ঘোরে এক ঘোর লোক. The room was filled with people, the devotees. রবিবারে অবসর হইয়াছে, তাই ভক্তেরা দর্শন করিতে আসিয়াছেন. Now it was Sunday. It was a holiday. Nice time to spend. So all those people, they had come to Sri Ramakrishna to hear his nectar-like words. এখনো মাস্টারের সঙ্গে কাহারও আলাপ হয় নাই. The master had never interacted with any of those devotees, which was going to happen later on. Having got this same-sightedness knowledge, he was going to interact with some of these people in this crowd very intimately. So what happened? Since he was not acquainted with anybody, he had not interacted with anybody, তিনি শোভা মধ্যে এক পার্শ্ব আসন গ্রহণ করিলেন. He took one seat in one corner, went and sat down there. He was an unknown entity in that group. দেখিলেন ভক্ত সঙ্গে সহাস্য বদনে ঠাকুর কথা কহিতেছেন. And there sitting looking at Sri Ramakrishna, he saw that Sri Ramakrishna with a beautiful smile on his face, so Hashavadane. Sri Ramakrishna had that bewitching smile which could mesmerize everybody. So he was talking to these people with that beautiful smile on his face. So this was the scenario of the starting point of the third visit of Sri M to Sri Ramakrishna. We will stop here and then we will see what is this talk about? What is it that Sri Ramakrishna is talking to these devotees? And then in the next reading, we also meet Mr. Narendranath Datta for the first time in this Kathamrita. Om Namah Shri Bhagavate Ramakrishnaaya. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.